Nicky Morgan.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak in this debate, and in particular to follow the remarks made by the Honourable Member for Leicester South on the issue of children's heart surgery at Leicester Hospital, the Glenfield Hospital in Leicester. I won't repeat, in view of the time limits, the issues about the safe and sustainable review, because I think they've been well rehearsed by other members who have already spoken on this issue. I don't think it's any great surprise that all members, as well as all patients, all staff, all parents, all families, want the best and high quality services when dealing with children's heart surgery. We're talking about very sick young babies and children, and there's no doubt that high quality services are wanted across the country. We also have to recognise that in the 21st century National Health Service there will be reconfigurations, and the reconfiguration that has been worked on by the Safe and Sustainable Review arises out of incidents in Bristol, and there is a very good reason for what they are proposing. But I think, as is already rehearsed, there are some very serious questions still to be answered about the process and the way the decisions have been made. In the June 2011 debate in the House of Commons, in this chamber, I talked about the ECMO service, which the Honourable Member for Leicester South has already talked about. This is a service offered by Leicester. It is a world-class, excellent service, and the question is, if we move the children's heart surgery unit from Leicester to Birmingham, what is going to happen to that service? Like the Member for Leicester South, I would like to thank the Minister very much indeed for meeting a delegation of East Midlands MPs just this afternoon to talk about this. ECMO, as I understand it, is a nationally commissioned service, and therefore it required the Secretary of State to sign off on the move. And I understand that he did in fact accept the recommendations of the panel last Friday. And we have a number of questions, I think, those of us most interested and who have been listening to constituents and to consultants and staff at the Glenfield unit to raise with the Minister. And I would like to be sure of three things before, I think, certainly for me, I could be certain and happy with the way the decision has been taken. Firstly, is the Secretary of State, or was the Secretary of State, aware before he signed off on the move of the misgivings of experts which have already been rehearsed by the Member for Leicester South? Letters are still arriving from international experts. Indeed, sitting in this debate, I've just seen from one of the consultants, a letter has arrived from the Medical Director at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I don't want to repeat what's already been said, but I would like to read out a couple of quotes. Firstly, from Stephen Conrad, who is the Chairman of the Steering Committee of the Extracorporeal Life Support Organisation, who says that moving an ECMO programme is non-trivial and amounts to much more than moving equipment and some key personnel. Excellent outcomes that are now characteristic of the Leicester Group, whose work was instrumental in the worldwide adoption of paediatric and adult ECMO, would not be maintained following such a move. Yes, of course I will.
I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady for giving way and for her work and support on this important issue. Does she agree with me that it is not simply a matter of moving machines with relation to the ECMO service? It is the staff, their expertise, their skills that wouldn't be easy to move, and that international leading experts on ECMO say it could take between 5 and 20 years for the same excellent level of service that's available in Glenfield to be made available anywhere else in the country.
I'm very grateful indeed to the Honourable Lady for making that point, and she is, of course, absolutely right. The Honourable Member for Leicester South has already talked about Kenneth Palmer, who was retained, I understand it, to give his expert advice to the JCPCT on the move. And he said that, he has now said that since the decision was made on the 4th of July, he said that you will take over 20 years of experience in one of the world's absolute best ECMO units and throw it away, and then to rebuild it in another place, and probably it will take at least 5 years to have some kind of quality, and probably 20 years to come back to top quality, if that's ever possible. And the Honourable Lady is absolutely right. This is about staff. The units, of course, the machinery is important, but actually what you're building up and what Leicester is most renowned for is the expertise of its consultants, its nursing staff, and all the other staff as well. And that's what people particularly rely on. And also the fact that Leicester has the only, as I understand it, paediatric mobile ECMO unit. They are often called in to fly by helicopter to other parts of the country to retrieve patients and bring them back to Leicester. And I hope that's something that the Secretary of State was aware of, and the JCPCT when they made their decision. Finally, my constituent, Mrs. Edith Felstead, who wrote to me, talked about the risk of moving the service, And she talks about the fact that survival rates at Glenfield are 20% higher than the rest of the world. I think the point I made last year and the point I still want to make is that we have here an internationally excellently renowned service. And if we move it, we must be sure that we're moving it for better outcomes. So my second question to the Minister is just to find out the advice that was given to the JCPCT about the likely outcomes if the move was made. And then the third point is that in this rather hefty tome that was published to help the JCPCT make their decision on the 4th of July, there is a quote which talks about the Secretariat can provide reasonable assurance that paediatric respiratory ECMO could be transferred safely to Birmingham. Well, I'm concerned by the words reasonable assurance, and I would like to know what reassurances have been given, and particularly if the move goes ahead and has to be implemented, what will happen if it then becomes clear in the course of preparing for that move that the service cannot be safely moved and we need to undo some of the review that has already happened. As the member for Leicester South has talked about, I think there are two narrow questions which could be independently reviewed in relation to the Leicester move, and I very much hope that from the meeting we've just had and also from the debate today that the Minister will agree that we will be able to get that independent review of those 2 points about what advice is available to the Secretary of State and also to the JCPCT and the AGNES, the Group on National Specialised Services, before they made their decision.
Stuart Ann.